So what we need to recognize is that campus placements are not an end to itself, even though most of the students in many of the institutions which are present over here and many others may feel that campus placement is by far the most important thing which is there in the campus. The fact remains that it is having a very limited role, and it should have a very limited role in how the campus is run and how the industry views the institutions. Can we have the next slide, please? So in order to really encapsulate how campus placements end up wherever they are, we need to first see what are the objectives of the institutions of higher learning, our colleges, our universities. Next, please. So the question is that, is the role of the university just to produce degree holders? Everybody talks about, including our honorable minister, talks about numbers, that 50,000 in a university, 20,000 in some other university. Is it finally left only to this number game? The answer is obviously no. Okay, we need, of course, our institutions to run degree programs and produce degree holders every year, but we also need the institutions to produce well-rounded individuals. We need our institutions to produce individuals with social consciousness and the ability to contribute to larger social cause. And lastly, we need our institutes to produce the next generation of leaders in various fields. So all these have to be the implicit reason why institutions of higher learning exist. Next, please. So can all these aims be satisfied just by a bunch of courses being taken by the students? Obviously not. So there has to be a more global view of education than just the courses which the students are taking. And this is where the universities and the industry, the corporate world, the partnership becomes very clear. The educational institutions, they need partnership with industry, with social sector, with NGOs, with governments, with anybody you can think of who is a part of our larger society. Next, please. And now what does the industry want from the academic institutions? Next, please. So what the industry wants, I will not get into. What the industry should want is, in my mind, very clear, that the industry should not be wanting only slave laborers. They should be wanting the future leaders. They should be wanting their valued employees. They should be wanting their knowledge or product developers. They should be wanting their peer reviewers. And obviously all of them are not within the organization itself. And lastly, they should be wanting their customers. So if we understand and if we agree in this, where is the question of the industry and the academia evaluating what is the role of the other? Any industry in any field in the world needs to have its customers to whom the goods and products and services are sold. Anybody who is studying in any college or university anywhere in the world has to finally be out in the market and earn a living and spend the money which the person is earning. So there is a very natural and there is a very strong bond between the academia and the industry, which of course is not often looked at in this way. Next, please. So those who can be hired as employees after graduation should not be the only interest of our industry. They should be given high priority, of course, but other students who may fulfill other roles are as valuable to the industry, even though they may not be a part of the industry. And those who can be a valued customer are equally important. So if I represent an industry which is working in an area where a particular college is not producing graduates, does it mean that the industry should not be interested in that college? In my view, the answer is no. The industry may not be interested from placement consideration, but the industry may still be interested as potential customers over there. The industry may still be interested as potential thought leaders of the future who are coming out of those colleges. Next, please. And the reason why I'm telling you these things is that when we evaluate what is happening within IITs, why IITs have suddenly earned recognition as something which is out of the box is primarily because of these reasons, and it's not so much because of the nature of the courses which we offer. Okay. So what are the emerging trends of relationship between the industry and the academia? Next, please. First of all, we need to recognize that it's a partnership of equals. No company, does not matter how small, is less important than others. No academic institution, does not matter how underfunded, is less important than others. It must be a partnership of equals all the time. The partnership should be based on mutual respect. And lastly, the partnership should recognize the symbiotic relationship between the industry and the academia. And the reason why these obvious points are being put up is because they are very obvious to think, and they are obviously not the way we see it's happening in our practice in our country right now. Next, please. So, what should the industry do differently? Next, please. First of all, the industry needs to understand and appreciate the multiple objectives of an educational institution. So, where required, they should demand articulation of multiple objectives. They should ask the industry, okay, you are offering these courses in this particular program. What else are your students equipped to do? Where required, they should demand evaluation of the program to meet these objectives. And lastly, assist the academia to meet these multiple objectives, because in most cases, academia alone will obviously not be able to do so. Next, please. Then internally, there are certain challenges within the industry. First is the silos in which the large organizations work within their system. There is a need to break the internal barriers within these organizations. For example, HR should not be responsible only for hiring from the academia. HR should also be facilitated to meet the other objectives. Then the technical teams which are responsible for products and technical developments, they should not be responsible only for these functions. They should also simultaneously be seeing whether in the process of doing these, whether the academia is producing the right kind of people from employability considerations. Then nobody seems to be responsible for hiring future leaders out of college. We somehow, maybe we just assume that there is some incubator somewhere from where leaders are simply just coming up in thin air. It's not so. Leaders have to be groomed, they have to be inculcated, and not as individuals but as systems, which means that in the institutions where the industry has interaction, industry has to be able to help this to the academia. And lastly, it is not clear to me whether any of the industry is really looking at our academia as potential future customers. Very rare examples I see. One example I see in IITs, for example, is the banking institutions. The very first year when the students join, all these major banks which are offering credit card services line up to give these students credit card with very low credit limit, but with almost, I think, with zero fees and with no requirement of background document and so on, except for whatever is required by RBI. The reason is that they know that these people eventually at some point of time would be financially well off. So they want to tie in at that stage. They have no qualms in assuming that only a small fraction of these people are actually going to continue as customers later on. But that's not the objective. The objective is to be able to tie them as potential customers right when they are at the age of 16 or 17. Why are other industries not able to do so? It does not have to be only with customer goods. It may also be with so many other kinds of fields where similar approach may be feasible. Industry has to come forward and start doing these things. Next, please. Then what are the things which the academia needs to do differently? Next, please. First of all, the academia needs to understand and accept the multiple objectives of running an educational institution. There is not enough clarity on these issues in the academia today. Then the academia needs to proactively structure their program to meet these objectives. Then they need to greatly enhance the interaction with the industry. And by greatly enhance, I mean by orders of magnitude. I cannot understand one interaction with industry which would not be beneficial to the institution. So any kind of thing, it does not have to be only projects, it does not have to be only placement, it does not have to be internship only. It may be as simple thing as people from the industry coming and talking to the students in small groups regarding what they do, and hopefully through that get the students enthused about something or the other. It may be as simple as a small organization inviting maybe 5 students from a particular program that would you like to spend the afternoon in our office and see what people do for a living. Even these small things would eventually add up if they are sufficiently large in number. And the industry, the academia needs to be able to move that path. Next, please. So to quickly summarize, both academia and industry are at a critical stage in engaging each other. I believe that we need to break the current mold and move in this direction. A significant proportion of the academia do not meet the expected objectives. If you even look at the articles of association of most of the institutions where we have studied, you will not find the objectives laid out clearly. So it's not clear whether the institutions agree that this is their role besides giving out degrees. Then industry often treats short-term planning and short-term engagement as equivalent. It's clearly not so. Planning has to be short-term in the industry because of the event horizon in which they work. But it does not mean that the strategy has to be short-term. So industry also needs to restructure the way they look at this. And both the industry and the academia need to reinvent themselves in future. Next, please. So lastly, what I believe is that open dialogue between the industry and the academia is an important first step. And that is the reason why I'm so excited with what Rangroot.com is doing. Because I feel that this is a great opportunity, and these kinds of series of seminars around the country would greatly enhance the closer interaction between the industry and academia that we all look forward to. So thank you.